All right, what's good, my good students? This is your professor, Dr. Jace, and we are in week four. Yes, week four of your 7305 Foundations course. And I'm going to try to make this, again, optional lecture very quick. We're going to try to keep this under 15 minutes. I don't have too much that I want to talk about, but I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping. Then I wanted to bring a recent change in Library of Congress subject headings to your attention. And this will be sort of on point with your, I believe, Module 8 content. It is your content for this week. I think it's Module 8. So you'll see where I'm drawing that link. But first, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Okay, first things first, I do want to remind you all, I know that this is coming back to back very, very quickly, but you will have a literature review assignment that is going to be due Sunday night, June the 30th at 11:59 p.m. And this is going to be based on your bibliography, your annotated bibliography work. I do hope that I can, knock on wood, have the rest of those graded by tomorrow night, Wednesday night. I am recording this on Tuesday, June the 25th. I'm hoping to have those graded on Wednesday, June the 26th. These annotated bibliographies, and that way you all will be ready for the literature review. I do want to say that there are capitalization errors in a lot of the annotated bibliographies that I have graded thus far. So we do need to kind of work on that. We've got to, I'm going to post up in the announcements area of the course, I am going to post up the rules for capitalization in a references works cited list in APA so that you all can review that, because so far, like I said, so far with the annotated bibliographies that I have graded, most of them have errors with the capitalization of article titles, book titles, that sort of thing. And it is very weird and counterintuitive. I'm not exactly sure why the rules are the way they are. I just know that they are, and I apologize for that. But I have to abide by the rules, so I have to make my students abide by those rules as well, especially since some of you will be publishing in the future. So I want you all to be aware of the nuances of citation in this fashion. All right, now I have actually removed, taken away, especially for the summer iteration of the course, I have taken away a lot of these readings that were corresponding with the module number 8 that were related to cataloging and how that plays into the history and the fabric of our profession. But what I did want to do was, and some of you may already be aware of this, some of you are not, when it comes to effective communication, a huge part of communicating effectively in our field is also to make sure that when we develop subject headings and things like that, when we are developing subject terms even for databases. So whether you're developing subject headings for materials in an OPAC, or whether you are developing like just subject terms within an EBSCO database or whatever you might be doing, it is appropriate to, I'm sorry about that, it is appropriate to actually identify terms that are appropriate terms and non-offensive terms, because what you don't want to do is alienate populations of potential library users by using offensive terminology, dated terminology, etc., etc. And this is going to be something that's always going to be changing, because language does not stay static, as you all know. Language is very dynamic, and things that may have been acceptable language in the past are no longer acceptable. And as a Southerner, I can definitely give you one example. with my actually ethnicity and background. In North Carolina, it used to actually be okay to refer to people of African descent as colored. And actually, even on my father's birth certificate does not list him as black or African American or Negro, which again is another dated term. It actually lists him as colored. But we don't use that term colored anymore. Hopefully you all do not use the term colored to refer to African American people. If you do, it would be good practice to stop doing that. But going to another bit of terminology here. So, this is an article from 2006. Let me get myself back in the picture here. This is an article from 2016. I'm sorry, not 2006, but 2016. And by the way, just to make sure you all know, I'm not attempting to politically bait you all here. This Donald Trump had not taken office yet in June 13th of 2016. The election was in November of 2016, the general election. So this is actually the contents of this article. If you do look for this article, and it can be very easily Googled, Library of Congress drops illegal alien subject heading provokes backlash legislation. This backlash legislation, I do want to make it perfectly clear that this was not backlash legislation that was encouraged by the Trump administration, because some people may jump to that conclusion given the political climate of this country at this time. But Obama was still in the White House by this point. So this legislation was not a Trump, at least not a directly Trump encouraged bit of legislation. This was something that happened during Obama's term in the White House. And some people did, by the way, refer to Obama, just so you know, as the deporter in chief. So, you know, I don't want this to all sound like I'm launching into some partisan speech here. That is definitely not the case. I think that both parties in our two-party system have done a very poor job of handling the immigration issue. But anyway, having said that, so it is generally, especially if you are talking to any of the more progressive voices in our field, it tends to be, preferred that we not call people illegal aliens. We prefer other terminology, such as there was this move to replace the illegal alien Library of Congress subject heading with non-citizen, and the act to be described as unauthorized immigration as opposed to illegal immigration. And this did prompt a bit of a backlash. So ALA Council was even involved, and this is a pretty interesting article that you all can read here. Reforma, which is an ethnic affiliate for Latinx people and for people who speak Spanish as their primary language, they had also been involved. Reforma had a voice in this issue as well. It's a very near and dear subject to them. So there was a little bit of a battle that occurred after the Library of Congress proposed dropping illegal alien as a subject heading. And what I want you all to see is that the field did not give up on this issue. The field stuck to their guns, and there were activists within the field of librarianship who kept up the good fight. And even now, which the political climate has changed, I would say, since Obama left office, and that is, again, this is not necessarily a criticism of Trump. I think that the political climate just changes all the time, and definitely changes from one president to another. So it would have changed from Hillary to I mean, from Obama to Hillary, it would have changed um, from Romney to Trump or whatever you can envision. But having said that, 3 months ago, earlier this year, um, thanks to some activism, yes, see if I can stretch this. I cannot. So I'll just have to move it. Thanks to student activists, the Library of Congress will stop using the illegal aliens subject header. And again, this is something that you can Google here, and you'll also see the URL here. So I do not actually know how to pronounce that, but that is your URL there, or you can Google this headline. Either way, you will be brought to this entry that is letting you know that the illegal alien subject heading has indeed been dropped. And I think that that was the proper move. I am glad that that's going to be done or has been done. It took effect in May. This has already been done, so I apologize. But this is activism does not necessarily mean that you are Stokely Carmichael out there, or that you are Susan B. Anthony out there, or anything like that. Activism can also be just doing small things to aid the better good or the greater good of humanity within your own field. So I definitely don't see this as librarians risking their lives to be activists, but this was certainly something that was done in order to make our terminology here in the field less offensive, and um, something that doesn't really implicate or call illegal a group of people who have come into this country for one reason or another. Okay? So, because we don't know that they are all quote unquote illegal immigrants, there's a lot more nuance in discussing that than I think people realize. I mean, especially if you are coming seeking asylum or something of that nature. So, all of that to say that I do think that this is a good move. It shows sensitivity, and it shows a willingness to better serve and better, it shows a willingness to better serve all of the people who reside in our country. So I'm going to leave it at that, to leave it under 14 minutes. And again, this is an optional lecture. If you need me, please email me, austinj@missouri.edu. Anytown, anytown, anytown. You may include pithy comments, but I may respond to them likewise. Have a good day.